5 near-extinction moments in human history. Are we living on borrowed time? The world around us is full of beauty, wonder, and mystery, but it's also a fragile and dangerous place. Throughout history, the human race has faced numerous threats that have pushed us to the brink of extinction. From natural disasters to pandemics, wars, and even the prospect of nuclear annihilation, our survival as a species has been repeatedly put to the test. In this video, we'll take a journey through time and explore some of the closest moments humans have been to extinction. We will witness raw and exciting stories of resilience and courage, and we will learn how, against all odds, our ancestors managed to overcome these catastrophic events and shape the world we live in today. So sit back, hold tight, and get ready to embark on a thrilling ride through some of the darkest moments in human history. You won't want to miss it. The Toba Catastrophe. The Toba Catastrophe is one of the most catastrophic events in human history and is thought to have occurred around 75,000 years ago. The event was triggered by a massive volcanic eruption that occurred in what is now known as Sumatra, Indonesia. This eruption was so huge that it would make your everyday firework display look like a tiny sparkler in comparison, and it released an estimated 800 cubic kilometers of ash, rock, and dust into the atmosphere. That's enough to fill over 300 million Olympic swimming pools. Can you imagine that? But wait, it gets worse. The ash and dust from the eruption blocked out the sun's rays, causing global temperatures to plummet. It was so bad that scientists referred to it as the volcanic winter that lasted for years. This sudden and severe cooling led to a sharp decrease in the number of plants and herbivores, which in turn caused a decrease in the number of carnivores. This included early humans, who were pushed to the brink of extinction. Now, you might be thinking, oh no, this sounds like the end of the world. And it almost was. Scientists believe that the Toba Catastrophe may have reduced the human population to as few as 3,000 individuals. That's less than the number of people in your average high school. But other studies suggest that the human population may have been as high as 10,000 individuals at the time of the eruption. Despite the odds stacked against them, humanity proved to be a tough cookie. The Toba Catastrophe serves as a reminder of our resilience and adaptability, even in the face of seemingly insurmountable challenges. We survived, we rebuilt, and here we are today, stronger than ever before. We may never know the full extent of the catastrophe, but one thing's for sure, it's a story that we'll never forget. The Black Death. The Black Death, also known as the bubonic plague, was one of the deadliest pandemics to ever strike humanity. It swept across Europe in the 14th century, leaving devastation and despair in its wake. The cause of this deadly disease was a bacterium called Yersinia pestis, which was carried by fleas that infested rats. These pesky little critters would bite the rats and then bite humans, transmitting the bacteria and causing the disease. Talk about a double whammy. The symptoms of the Black Death were nothing short of horrific. Imagine fever, chills, vomiting, and painful swollen lymph nodes that would appear all over the body. These were called buboes, and they were a sure sign that the disease had taken hold. To make matters worse, the disease could be transmitted from person to person through contact with infected bodily fluids, as well as through the air. It was a nightmare come true. But wait, it gets even scarier. The Black Death had a profound impact on Europe, causing widespread panic and social upheaval. People were dropping like flies, and nobody knew why. Many believed that the disease was a punishment from God, and some turned to religious fanaticism or wild hedonism as a result. It was a time of chaos and confusion that tested the limits of human endurance. Despite the horror of it all, the Black Death also had some positive consequences. It led to the development of modern quarantine practices, which were designed to isolate the infected and prevent the spread of disease. Advances in medicine and public health also emerged, as people scrambled to find a cure for this deadly affliction. The pandemic even contributed to the decline of the feudal system and the rise of a more modern capitalist economy. Today, the Black Death is still studied by scientists and historians as a cautionary tale of the devastating impact that infectious diseases can have on human populations. It's a reminder that we must remain vigilant and prepared, ready to face any new threats that may arise. Number 3 on our list is the Cuban Missile Crisis. The Cuban Missile Crisis was a political and military standoff between the United States and the Soviet Union in October 1962. It was a pivotal moment in the Cold War and is considered one of the most dangerous moments in human history. The crisis began when the Soviet Union installed nuclear missiles in Cuba, just 90 minutes from the coast of the United States. This move was seen as a direct threat to American national security and sparked a tense standoff between the two superpowers. The then U.S. President John F. Kennedy responded by implementing a naval blockade around Cuba to prevent Soviet ships from delivering additional missiles to the island. The Soviet Union responded by threatening to retaliate if the United States attacked Cuba. For several days, the world was on the brink of nuclear war. There were tense negotiations between the two sides, and there were fears that a miscalculation or miscommunication could trigger a nuclear exchange. Finally, after several days of tense negotiations, the crisis was resolved when the Soviet Union agreed to remove the missiles from Cuba in exchange for a U.S. pledge not to invade Cuba and the removal of U.S. missiles from Turkey. The Cuban Missile Crisis may seem like a distant memory, but its lessons are still relevant today, especially given the current tensions between Russia and Ukraine. The recent escalation of the conflict has raised fears of a potential nuclear war, and the world is once again on edge. The Cuban Missile Crisis showed us that even the smallest miscalculation or miscommunication can have catastrophic consequences. In today's world, with more nuclear-armed states and more volatile international relations, the stakes are even higher. The crisis also highlighted the importance of diplomacy and communication in resolving international conflicts. In the case of the current conflict between Russia and Ukraine, it is crucial that both sides engage in meaningful dialogue and work towards a peaceful resolution. At the same time, the crisis showed us the importance of being prepared for the worst-case scenario. The United States and the Soviet Union came dangerously close to a nuclear war during the Cuban Missile Crisis, and it is only through luck and careful diplomacy that disaster was averted. In the current context, it is essential that leaders on both sides take steps to reduce the risk of a nuclear war. This could include measures such as reducing the number of nuclear weapons, establishing direct communication channels between the leaders of the two countries, and increasing transparency around military activities. Ultimately, the lessons of the Cuban Missile Crisis remind us that the risks of nuclear war are too high to ignore. Don't go anywhere yet. The next on our list today is a must-watch for everyone. Climate change. Climate change is one of the most pressing issues of our time. It's not just some far-off threat that we can ignore, but a real and present danger that is already affecting our daily lives. From raging wildfires to devastating hurricanes, we are seeing the effects of climate change all around us, as we recently saw in Mississippi, where a devastating tornado claimed more than 24 lives. Extreme weather events like this are becoming more frequent and more severe, and they are just one of the many ways climate change is impacting our daily lives. And yet, despite the overwhelming evidence and urgent warnings from scientists, many people still refuse to take action. They continue to drive gas-guzzling cars, eat meat with abandon, and consume energy without a second thought. We cannot afford to ignore the reality of climate change any longer. We must take bold action to reduce our carbon footprint and transition to a sustainable, renewable energy future. We must also invest in disaster preparedness and resilience so that we can better protect our communities from the increasingly frequent and destructive effects of climate change. It's time to face the uncomfortable truths about our current trajectory and take action to mitigate the worst effects of climate change. We have the power to create a better future for ourselves and for future generations, but we must act now before it's too late. And finally, an asteroid destroying the Earth. Asteroids, the celestial vagabonds, roam through the cosmos with ceaseless motion. Though they may appear small against the backdrop of the vast universe, their potential to wreak havoc upon our fragile planet is far from insignificant. These spacefaring boulders are anything but mere specks, and we mustn't underestimate their devastating impact. Back in 2014, there was a scare when an asteroid the size of Ben Nevis hurtled past Earth, bringing with it the possibility of serious damage. But that was nothing compared to the behemoth that came even closer in June of 2015. NASA was keeping a watchful eye on this monster-sized rock, which measured a whopping 1.5 miles across and had a value of $22 trillion. due to its abundance of valuable resources like nickel, iron, cobalt, and even water, nitrogen, hydrogen, and ammonia. As it whizzed past our planet at a mind-boggling speed of 45,450 miles per hour, scientists and astronomers were left in awe. This colossal space rock was 15 times the size of any other asteroid that had come close to Earth, and it sparked a worldwide call to action to create a system that could divert or destroy such a massive threat. Even though it passed safely at a distance of 4 million miles, that's still close in space terms, and any slight deviation in its path could have meant complete devastation for our planet. Small meteors burn up upon entry into Earth's atmosphere due to the air's resistance, but an asteroid of this size would break up into hundreds of explosive fragments, causing destruction and chaos across the globe. Imagine massive tsunamis, crushing earthquakes, and the potential for global extinction. It's a terrifying thought. To make matters worse, NASA has no clue about the whereabouts of 98% of meteoroids and asteroids. Sometimes they're only discovered when they're passing by our planet. The renowned physicist Professor Brian Cox once said, "There's an asteroid with our name on it, and it will hit us." NASA agrees, but they believe we have a few hundred years before it happens, providing us with enough time to develop a system to counteract the threat of an asteroid impact. In conclusion, the threat of asteroids may seem like something straight out of a sci-fi movie, but it's a very real concern. We must take the necessary steps to ensure that we're prepared for any eventuality, and that we can protect ourselves from the destructive forces of space. We've seen the worst that nature and humanity can throw at us. We've faced extinction and somehow managed to come out the other side. But we cannot be complacent, for the challenges we face today are just as daunting as those that came before. Climate change, pandemics, nuclear war, and other existential threats are looming on the horizon. We cannot afford to ignore them or wait for someone else to take action. It's up to us. It's up to each and every one of us to do our part to ensure a sustainable future for ourselves and for generations to come. But let's be real here. It's not going to be easy. We'll need to make tough choices, sacrifice some of our comforts, and work together in ways we've never thought possible. We'll have to face our own mortality and the reality that the future may be uncertain. But despite all this, we cannot give up hope. We must have faith in our own resilience, ingenuity, and determination. We must believe that we can and will overcome the challenges that lie ahead. So let's roll up our sleeves, get to work, and make the changes that are necessary. The fate of our planet and of humanity depends on it. Alright guys, thank you for tuning in today. We hope you had as much fun watching this video as we had making it. If you enjoy our content and want to see more of our entertaining videos, make sure to hit the like and subscribe buttons. We have an even more interesting video for you coming soon. But until then, take care of yourselves and stay safe. We'll see you in the next video.